Good afternoon, kings and queens, and welcome to Believe in Yourself Tuesday. I'm your host, Lakina Folks. Today, I chat with Shaunee Parker Brandon, known for having overcome years of insecurity, low self-esteem, internal confusion. The foundation of the platform that she speaks from is the awareness of God and cultivating self-awareness and love. She is a wife, mom of two, author, blogger, worship leader, and First Lady. And she does all of that in glorifying God as well. We'll be right back to chat with Shaunee right after this.
1, 2, 3, 4. Believe. You can't speak for nobody else. There's nothing you cannot achieve. Believe.
Well, welcome to Believe in Yourself Tuesday. Shaunee, it's a pleasure to have you here on today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So it's always good to talk with guests who are transparent about their lives. And your bio says, I have experienced what it's like to be hopeless, plagued by depression, suicidal thoughts, completely unaware of my worth, value, potential, and identity. Did this start from childhood?
There's a part of me that wants to say no, but I will say yes. I think growing up the way that we did, like I really had excellent parents, but we grew up very strict religiously, and we grew up with a lot of sin consciousness, and what it does is it shapes a lot of shame.
Yeah.
So because there's shame, because, you know, when you're taught everything is wrong, you know, as a human being, there's certain things you want to indulge in and have fun, just things as small as we couldn't go bowling, we couldn't go to the movies.
Yeah.
So the feeling of, well, I want to go bowling, I want to go to the movies, oh, I'm a sinner. So when that's like your consciousness growing up, it shapes in you a sense of shame, which shapes an insecurity. A lot of people pleasing because you're trying to project this image.
Yeah.
And so growing up with that, it fostered a lot of insecure feelings, a lot of shame, just for the smallest of things, feeling like that. And so it just, that type of foundation just grows. The older you get, it becomes worse. Your coping mechanisms become bigger. So, you know, you want to say, no, it didn't start in my childhood. I had a great family. But no, it really did.
It
did.
Yeah. And when did you like really overcome that? Was it when you got in adult 20s, teenage years?
I think that when people say, like, if they'll say, well, I'm not insecure anymore, you know, I think that they're lying. You know, we all battle insecurities.
Yeah.
And your tools become different. So when you have a solid relationship with God, He becomes the tool.
Right.
He becomes the reminder of everything you need to know to combat insecure feelings. But in the book that I wrote on insecurity, High Insecurity by Insecurity, I talked about like circumstantial insecurity, where there's certain circumstances that can make you feel insecure.
Right.
And then, you know, you face them and then you overcome them. But then there's an insecurity that like resides in you. It's a voice that will say you're nothing, you're not good enough, all of those things. And to me, you can overcome that. And for me, the way that I ended up overcoming it was I just really ended up in a horrible relationship that just was not for me. And the guy repeatedly told me in that relationship, get out of the relationship, get out. Like over the course of the 3 years, get out of the relationship. Wow. And by the time the relationship was over, I like I said, I was hopeless. I had suicidal thoughts. I was depressed because I just really opened myself up to something that was toxic, and it was outside of God's plan for my life. And when I got out of that relationship, it was almost like it set me on a path like, you never ever want to deal with this again.
Yeah.
You know, some things you go through that you say, never again. Well, I find myself here. I don't care what has to happen. And it was almost like God used it to set me straight to where I said, now, how did I end up there? And I realized I didn't know who I was. I didn't know who God was. And so I went on a pursuit of learning who God was and Him teaching me who I was. And for a whole year, you know, I didn't date, I didn't talk to nobody. Like, it was really me focused on God.
Now, how old were you during that time?
I would say I was 25.
Okay.
Like about 25, 26 maybe. No, yeah, about 25, 24, 25. And I just, for a whole year, focused on God, like nothing else. And during that time, He really started to show me who I was, because I really didn't know.
Right.
And I think most people, when they live in an insecure reality, it's because the person that created them hasn't really shown them who they are. Because once God shows you who you are, all you have to do is see it one time. And it's like it just changes what you expect out of life, what you expect out of people, what you expect out of yourself. And it gave me a sense of value, not what you're supposed to do. This is who you are.
Right.
And it gave me such a sense of value that I was just like,
You were free.
Yeah,
You were free.
absolutely.
And then in that relationship, what were some of the things that you went through? Was it the guy telling you you're not enough, you know, being verbally abusive?
First of all, he was a lot older than me. So, and I will tell young ladies, and some of them get upset. They get upset with me, Lakina, and I'll be like, you'll be just fine. But when they're a certain age and they're dating somebody that's a lot older and has more life experience, you know, I think when I met him, I may have been like 22 or, you know, 23. Just, you're fresh, you're naive. You think you're grown, you're not grown.
Right.
You don't know that, you know. And I was sheltered in a sense. I was very close to my parents, so there's some sheltering there. I haven't been exposed to a whole lot.
Yeah.
And he was maybe 8 years older, had been married before, already had 2 kids, so he already in the game.
Yeah.
He know how to run game.
Right.
He know how to manipulate and all of those things. And he just took advantage of a lot of my naive nature, you know, borrowed a lot of money from me because I had always been good with money and had, you know, my own money. Borrowed a lot of money from me, you know, never paid back. I let this man run up like my credit cards and stuff like that. Just, you know, traveling to go see him and stuff like that. And also just more so like there was a lot of pressure surrounding sex.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I was really trying to keep myself, like I did love God. I was trying to, you know, live celibate, and just over time, like wearing me down in that place. And I just really remember losing bits and pieces slowly of like your resolve and your focus and what you want out of life until you morph into somebody that fits somebody else who don't know who they are.
Yeah.
You know, and so it was more so the toxic side of it was me just letting so much of myself go. And then when God is repeatedly telling you, get out, like I was having dreams, visions, you know, it wasn't no question in my mind what God was saying. And when you're that blatantly like, disobedient, I mean, everything come with you just saying no. So
Wow, yeah. So when you started facing a lot of the low self-esteem and insecurities, you said it started at childhood, but like what specific age, if you remember, that you first realized like I got some insecurities and low self-esteem? going on here? Like, when did you like really realize that?
I think probably there's an age that kids start to realize social status. Like if your parents were poor, you may not know until a certain age that you get around other kids.
Yeah.
You know, or if they have money, you realize at a certain age when you get around other kids. And I just remember probably being about like 8 or 9 years old, Haven, my daughter's age. And I remember going back to school after Christmas break and all of the kids talking about everything they got for Christmas. And I just remember like their list was so much longer than ours. And my parents were not poor, but they were by no means wealthy. Like my mom was a stay-at-home mom with 4 kids, and my dad was the breadwinner, and he was a fireman. You know, and he still at the time, he was like still climbing the ranks. He was entry level. So his salary had to support a home, and it just wasn't enough for us to be getting all of these Christmas gifts for kids. And I just remember when they asked me what I got for Christmas, I named the few things that I got, and then I started copying everybody's list because I did not want to feel like, you know, I didn't want anybody looking at me as if, oh, they're poor or they don't have enough. And in that moment, I think that that's when I realized, like, oh, there's some insecurities here. Because, you know, I wasn't strong enough to step up and say, well, this is all I got for Christmas and take it or leave it. You know, that's where, you know, kids don't have that in them at that age unless it's been cultivated for you to feel okay to be different. So, like, that's when I first started realizing it. But over time, you find ways to not feel that way by, like, pulling from different places to make yourself feel like you're not, you know. And it didn't cure it until God sat me down and said, let me show you who you really are.
Wow. So you wrote the book High Insecurity by Insecurity. How long did it take you to write that book?
I actually had been severance from a job I was at 13 years. And during that time, a year and a half I was off because I had just had my second daughter. I would sit down and try to write Lakina, and nothing could come out. Like I tried for a year and a half to sit down, nothing could come out because I still had a lot of healing I had to go through, and I couldn't write. Got a year and a half off at home, can't write. One day, I just felt pushed to do it at the most inconvenient time. I got 2 little kids. You know, I'm back working. We have the church. I sit down to write, and it's like it just starts flowing out. And I think I finished that book in maybe 3.5 months. Wow. After being home, a year and a half, can't write nothing, you know, and then I embrace some healing, sit down, and I just start writing it. And actually, when I finished, during the process of writing it, it was like a lot of healing came. So most often the truth is inside of us, but it needs an avenue to come out. And when you step up and give it an avenue that God says, here's the avenue, more healing comes. Like it's waiting inside of us. The truth is inside of us.
And that's so good. You said the truth is inside of you. And sometimes people, we try to blot out the truth, and we don't dig deep down inside ourselves to see what's going on, and we mask it with things. And then you, like you said, you had a whole year and a half off, nothing. But then you got busy, it was uncomfortable, but in that uncomfortable space, you started to write. And then it started to flow.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So when you were writing, did you find yourself revisiting any of those old feelings, those old demons of childhood, and it was therapeutic for you?
Oh, yeah. I had somebody say, so, you know, when you wrote this, like, you know, did you go to school? You know, they were trying to figure out if I went to school for psychology and stuff because they were trying to figure out where I was getting all this stuff from. I said, no, this is all me.
Wow.
This is everything. I can tell you exactly when somebody is struggling with insecurity because these are all of the things, the way it morphs and it changes. And I had to revisit a lot of like moments where I was just like I had said a quote in the book, every bad decision I have ever made was because of insecurity.
Wow.
Like if you think about it, everything you sit and say that was dumb.
Yeah.
Why would
I do that?
It's insecurity, like a sense of not having a root or a feeling of identity. You make these decisions to find identity, or because you don't really have anything anchoring you. And so I had to revisit a lot of memories and moments and different things, and I was just like, man, you know, I can use myself as an example because these are all of the mistakes, the different ways that I went that led me down a bad path. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. And that was really thought-provoking. You said those insecurity moments come from, those bad decisions come from those insecurity moments. Like yeah. And so I'm thinking like, wow, those bad decisions I made, because I was insecure, low self-esteem, did not know my worth, and made those bad decisions.
Absolutely.
Yeah, wow. So do you feel like facing insecurities prepared you to walk in your ministry and being the first lady and pastor and all that?
Yeah, I do. I told someone before that if I had not gone through most of the things that I have, and even most of the things in getting married, like when we got married, it was a collision of two different worlds and realities, and just the struggle as newlyweds. Like, if I hadn't gone through any of those things, Lakina, I'd be done tore people's marriages up. I know I would have. I am trying to tell you, I would be like, girl, leave. Like, because that was my disposition. Like, I just was very judgmental. I was very critical. Like, I did not understand how people could love God and struggle. Like, I really didn't. I'm like, if you're a Christian, you're a Christian. And there's certain things that shouldn't be. Like, I was very critical. And when God came in and said, now, Shaunee, as much as you love me, because you do love me, but you got problems. Like, look at all these problems. I want you to watch how I help you and how I deal with you and how much grace I give you and how much love. And what it did was it gave me such a sense of God's nature that's how I am with people now. Yeah. But, you know, there's some things theologically that you can hear somebody teach, or you can read a book, and then there's sometimes God is like, no, I'm gonna fix you. I'm gonna put you in a life experience that's gonna show you, because you're not gonna read this and you're not gonna hear it somewhere where you learn it. I need you to experience this side of me. And so for me, going through like my issues and how God was with me, it absolutely prepared me for people. Sometimes I wake up to text messages and phone calls, and you know, it's people that I love dearly that I sat down like you do your kids and say, no, don't do this, don't, and then they do it anyway. And you're like, man, like,
did not just tell you not to
I just said, now we're gonna have to fix this. How are we gonna fix this? But my disposition with them is different because of the way God was with me, or the way somebody had to be, you know, with me.
And he was patient with you.
Oh, 100% patient.
And you exude patience, like, you know, that's one of your, you know, patient, you know, it's easy to talk to, and so you can tell that's, you know, like you said, that's how God was with you, and that's how you are with people.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. So tell us about your prayers and punchlines.
So I started blogging a long time ago, just like telling the different stories and things that happen in my life. It's always something funny and crazy happening, and people need humor. You know, for a while I used to feel like, well, God, how do I package this side of who I am in ministry? Because sometimes you look for a prototype or somebody to kind of, oh, okay, yeah, that they're like me. Maybe I can follow the same path. And I haven't really been able to find that yet. And so I started blogging and telling like some of the different stories that I've had and experiences, and then talking about my children and trying to encompass, encompass like the fashion side as well. So I was trying to I am packaging in the fashion side, the humor side, the spiritual side, all into the blogging and just every part of my life.
And you are quite the comedian. I mean, I read some of the book Insecurity, and you have some comical things in there. I was like laughing, like cracking up. You know, reading some of the books, and then your posts, you have a lot of humor with it. So you can tell like it's quite comical, but it also has like some practical lessons in that. And then also with your fashion is very different. And like you said, there's not a prototype because you are, your first lady, but you're different. You're not the first lady that we typically see, you know. So that's really, it's really cool. It's really cool. And so it's awesome how you package all of that together, and then it still glorifies God, and also it's still you. It's not taking any parts of you. So that's amazing. So you have a new book here, which is the 360 Project. Prayer journal. So it's a mini book and journal. And so what inspired you behind this book, and what do you want people to get out of it?
Often talking to people and like counseling people and helping people, I would always ask, how's your prayer life? Like, what is your relationship like with God? And I would find that there was always a struggle in that way, or even for myself personally. Certain seasons that I went through with God, they were like very hard, where you should be drawn close, but you may pull back because his answers aren't quite what you wanted to hear. And I was experiencing that a lot, where, when you have a real relationship with the Holy Spirit, he don't pull any punches with you. He just will flat out tell you, and it'll be like, well, that ain't what I wanted to hear, And I was experiencing that, so I was finding myself pulling back, and sometimes the road back to that consistency it can be very hard. And so I wanted to build a book that kind of lays a mini foundation on prayer, to get people to see the simplicity of it. You get in church and you see people that have like this great relationship with God, and they're prophesying and praying, and they just seem so powerful. And sometimes that can be intimidating to people, where they feel like that should be their goal. But relationship with God is customized to us. It's unique. And it cannot be built without any consistency. And so in creating the book, it gives like a whole year commitment for you to pray every day and to write down whatever you feel like God has spoken to you, impressed on your heart. Like it's a tool to push the person to be consistent. Because consistency is a huge issue. People will pray one day and then not pray another 6 or 7 days, and then they'll come back and pray again. And it's like, I'm trying to help people to see you can pray in your car. If you say I'm busy, pray in your car while you're driving. There's multiple ways to spend time with God. It's not just let me be at home laying in the floor praying, or in church. Like, he's everywhere you are.
Because he's in us.
He's inside of us.
He's in us.
So I really am just trying to create a movement for people to build consistency with God.
And then with that consistency, it also builds their relationship up with God. Like you said, just praying in the car. You can be praying in the kitchen while you're cooking, praying while you at work. And a lot of people sometimes think that is those deep prayers, Father God, all the wording. But no, it's just a conversation. And then it's building that relationship up.
Absolutely.
And some people say, well, how do you build a relationship with God? It's just like building a relationship up with a friend, with a mate, with your
Yes.
children.
Yes.
It's conversation. You
Absolutely.
talking and getting to know them.
Absolutely.
So that's good that you got this book here to help people and give them a journey, because some people don't know where to start.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's really good. So this book is really, really awesome, and so it's good for the year. So this is, we're 30 days away from the new year. So it starts in the new year from January all the way to December 2022. So
Yeah.
it's absolutely amazing. So
And let me say, I'm sorry to cut you off. The book also, if they were to buy it, if they say, hey, I want to start on a random date, March 13th, they can buy it and start March 13th
Okay.
because it has spaces for you to start whenever you're ready.
awesome.
Yep.
Okay, that's good. That's good to know. So you can start it any time of the month, any day of the month, any day of the month. So besides the new book, what other projects, what other new things do you have?
So right now we're building a 365 prayer community where it's kind of like an accountability
Okay.
and a sense of closeness for people to take the journey of praying for a whole year. We're starting January the 1st, but people can dive in at any point that they want. I'm just really making a commitment to go a whole year with people building the prayer community. So yeah.
Awesome. How can they get involved in the prayer community? Where can they?
They can sign up at ShauneeBrandon.com.
Okay.
Subscribe where they get all of the updates. We do have a Facebook page where there's a lot of live interaction.
Okay.
But right now, those are the two mediums for them to sign up and be a part.
Awesome. And where can people find your book?
They can go to www.ShauneeBrandon.com. They also can go to Amazon, and those are the two places I have it.
Okay. And then tell everybody where they can get more information about you as well.
Well, you guys can follow me on social media. You can follow me on Instagram. You can follow me on Facebook. You can sign up at my website to be subscribed whenever there's new blogs or anything like that. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, Shaunee, it has been a pleasure having you here, and just, say to our audience, just some encouraging words for them to take on in the week.
Okay. Well, I really want to thank you, Lakina, for having me, and I'm just so grateful to have been a part of being here today.
Yeah.
But I just want to really encourage everybody as we finish out the year and as we move into a new year, to please take your relationship with God serious. And I know that may sound like simple, and it may sound like, oh, well, we hear that all the time. But I really do believe that there is an urgency in the body of Christ for Christians to move from this casual Christianity. God is like positioning us in the marketplace and different places in the world to be influencers for Him. But not just that, to be persuasive in the sense of showing people who He is. With the pandemic and COVID and all of the things that have happened, there are believers who were serious about God, who were positioned in prayer and commitment, that went on to be with the Lord. They're no longer here. And now He's looking at our generation, and He's looking at the generation after us to say, do I have the same commitment from you? Are you willing to step up and give me your life and relationship with me? Because He's looking to position us in places of influence. But so many of us are so casual about our call, about our purpose, about Him, and He cannot effectively do what He wants to do with people that are half in and half out. And so I just challenge you today to make a decision. Are you all the way in for God? Does He have all of your focus and your commitment? And if you're saying, I've been struggling with that, listen, now is the time and now is the day for you to make a commitment and say, God, you have all of me. You have all of my life. And it starts small. Listen, praying every day and asking God to remove the unbelief, unforgiveness, any of the things that have hindered you. Now is the time to do it. And if you're saying, hey, I'm insecure and I don't really know who I am, The security comes through the simple things like praying and asking God to show you. And listen, He wants to do it more than you do. So all it means is just taking the simple steps to do it. And I'm telling you that God is just waiting on your yes today. And so I'm praying for you and believing for your commitment in this coming year and even now.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Shaunee, for joining us on today. You know, it's been a pleasure having you here. You're absolutely doing some amazing things, you know, not just naturally, but also spiritually as well. And, you know, you're absolutely, you know, phenomenal. Thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you, Lakina.
Yes, and thank you, kings and queens, for joining us on Believe in Yourself Tuesday. As our guest, Shaunee Brandon had said, she said that the truth is in you. You know, everything you need is inside of you. You have to believe, pull those things out. Sometimes you're in that uncomfortable space, but it's through those uncomfortable situations that really you find out who you are. Really those gifts, those talents, those dreams come out. So I challenge you today to look deep down within, believe in you, trusting you. And remember, everything you need is right there inside of you. All you have to do is believe in yourself. I hope you all have a great and amazing week.